Well, Benji Whelan faces a major rebuilding job in his second season in charge of the Waterford senior football team. After losing a host of first-team regulars from 2019, he approached 100 players to join the panel for the new season. I caught up with the Kilmacthomas man at the TQS Integration sponsorship launch in Lismore. I asked them firstly about whether they're up and running ahead of the 2020 campaign.
We are, Tomas, yeah, we're in month 2 actually, so we have a good 4 weeks behind us, if not a bit more. So yeah, things are moving along quite nicely at the moment.
What sort of work are you putting the lads through at the moment in preparation for the National Football League?
Well, we have a good number of new guys. I think there's about 11 in total new guys. So part of it, I suppose, is bringing them up to speed with the structures around the way we play, and also, I suppose, first of all, looking at those new guys and how many we can integrate immediately into the team, perhaps, who are at that level. And then, I suppose, coming up with a game plan that suits those personnel. But a big part of it is just, getting me used to the different concepts around, we'll say, structured defending and attacking and all that side of it, yeah.
Who have you brought on board on the panel for 2020, Benji?
Yeah, so we've a lot of young guys come in, and I suppose some of them were pretty much standing up, I suppose, in the under-20 set up last year. Some of them have come out and just had really good years for their club and are very, very interested in playing for their county. So I suppose we have James Beresford from Ballynacorty. We have Robbie Flynn off the back of a great year in Rathcormac. Young Rhys Stringer played really well in that under-20 set up last year, so he's come in. Davy Daniels and Niall McSweeney, Aaron Jones from Galtier. Good prospects, the three of them. Dan Boots has come in from Colligan, and Dan was with us in the tail end of last year. Derek O'Cosig is back in with us. He came in for a trial last year, went back to his club and had a reasonably good year, and he's impressed in training. Kieran Keating has come in from Ardmore, and Kieran Kerwin is in from Kill. I think that's pretty much it then. They're the guys that have come in. So we've got a lot of work to do with these guys to bring them up to speed and to introduce them to the higher level. So that's ongoing at the moment.
And you lost JJ Hutchinson to retirement immediately after the qualifier loss to Westmeath. Benji, are there any other players that you're planning without now for 2020?
Yeah, we're down a good number, to be honest. Tomas, we're down. Tygo Hulacan is based in Ennis now, and it's just not a feasible proposition anymore to come and train, and so he's had to shy away. Shane Ahern has dropped off the panel. Just work commitments is because we've really brought it to another level, I suppose, and this is something that we are mindful of. We're expecting lads to commit an awful lot of hours every week to it, and when you're working for yourself, or perhaps even have a family, it's very hard to do that. So Shane has dropped out. Tommy Pender has dropped out for the foreseeable. Perhaps we'll look at that situation again after the spring. Shane Ryan has dropped out for work commitments. Desi Hutchins has obviously gone playing hurling. JJ retired at the end of last season. Davy Hallahan was part of our panel last year, is travelling. Billy O'Keefe is taking the winter out to concentrate on hurling. Sean Whelan Barrett is looking at surgery, so he's gone for the league campaign and a lot of the championship. Jack Mullaney is travelling this winter, and Joe Allen also is taking the winter off. So there are a lot of guys. Some of them would have been nailed on players, other guys would have been panel players who would have probably progressed on to be first teamers this year. So a bit of a hole there, but look, hey, that's the situation. Yeah, would you be a little disappointed, Benji, that you haven't managed to keep the continuity from the squad you had last year, because you had made good progress, 3 league wins on the bounce, and came so close to beating Clare up in Ennis as well? Yeah, well, I think what it would have done, absolutely, is the answer to your question. But what it would have done, it would have allowed us to take the shackles off a little bit. We'd set up reasonably defensively last year at times, and covered over at other times, and that was with a view to being prudent. And what we wanted to do is we wanted to progress that on and perhaps be a bit more expansive this year. Now, that doesn't mean that we won't be expansive this year, but we have to have that prudent attitude going into the league, and make sure that we're not beaten in the first 15 minutes of a game. So it is a little bit of a annoyance, I suppose, that we have to build from scratch all over again. But look, I mean, that's the nature of the job, and that I fear that that's going to be the way it is every year. You're going to be bringing and blooding new guys. The key thing, I suppose, from where I'm standing now, and whoever is here in the years to come, is that the guys that you bring in are up to a speed where you can actually decide, well, we can still kick on with what we wanted to do. So look, that's where we find ourselves, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think last year you were telling me that you called 80 players, I think, to go into the panel. What sort of numbers were you looking at over the winter, Benji? Have you any idea?
Well, obviously, the guys that were good players last year are good players this year, so they all got a call back. So I'd say I probably went to about between 2 or 3 of us probably went to about 100 this year again. Look, and what we want is guys who want to pull on that jersey. That's the bottom line for us, and that's the bottom line for all Waterford supporters at this stage. It's no one's particular fault that we find ourselves in this situation in the hurling as well. But I'm sure that a hurling supporter wants to see people who are dyed in the wool Waterford players and who want to pull on that jersey, and that's what we want for footballers.
Have you made any changes in terms of your backroom team for next season, Benji?
Yeah, we have a new coach. Mick Casey's come in and hit the ground running. In fairness to him, very impressed with his work, and the players are really responding quite well to him. We've lost a selector in Kieran Halloran, and their coach from last year, Joe Hagan, has gone as well. So we're managing with just the 2 selectors and a manager this year from the point of view of picking it. Although we're delighted to have Frankie Ryan on hand to work with our goalkeepers. So Frankie will have a huge input from the defensive side of things. We're happy that we've a nutritionist in there this year, and Yvonne is doing fantastic work with the players, and we're getting a great buy-in from it, and it's an aspect perhaps that we'd have overlooked in years gone by, but this year, if all those things come together, we can kick on. We've also got an analyst from the point of view of the GPS stuff, Michael Byrne, and he's integral to the thing now as well. The players are very happy with the feedback he's been able to give them. So it's all positive in the camp.
What are your thoughts on some of the new rules being implemented, the advanced mark, the sin bin, and also the new kick-out ruling as well, Benji?
Look, I mean, it's as you were, from my point of view, I think I saw 2 marks in the whole league campaign last year. And now that's with the probability that it was down to, we'll say, a lot of defensive play. The space isn't in there to kick that ball in, and teams just don't want to give up possession. So, perhaps it might be a bit more open this year, and you might see a bit more of a forward mark. The kick-outs, like it doesn't change things dramatically from the point of view of winning or contesting a kick-out. And the black card is the sin bin. Yeah. So I think that's a positive rule, actually, because it really does, it focuses the mind. I think in a lot of cases, particularly with the county teams, you have guys in the stand, and there's such a fine line between why one guy's playing and another guy's sitting at the stand waiting for his chance. So effectively you can be bringing on just as good as what you had on the pitch at times, depending on the performance on the day and their level that they hit. So being down a player for 10 minutes, there are minuses, because you can see teams being a little bit more defensive for that time period or whatever it is. But look, it's let's just see how it goes.
And as you mentioned, inside Division 4 is really the be all and end all this season, Benji.
Yeah, it is. I mean, look, progression from the point of view of where Waterford football is now is about contesting against better opposition on a more regular basis, and that's going to drive the levels up. So if we can get up into Division 3, there's obviously an improvement in the levels we're playing at that stage. But I mean, I think it would just give us a bit of a kick on, so that we could really focus the minds and probably attract maybe better players in as well. Some of them, they're not prepared to make the sacrifices at this point in time because of what's on offer. Let's be straight about that. So perhaps if there was a little bit more notoriety about the thing and a little bit more exposure from it, and playing Division 3 and perhaps going for a Division 3 title or going up in Division 2 in 2 or 3 years' time, if we can do what we want to do this year, well then I can see why players heads would be turned. But that's where we find ourselves, and that's what this group of players are facing into, is trying to we'll say push on from where we were last year.
Was Conor Murray an obvious choice as new captain for 2020, Benji?
Yeah, well, Conor was chosen last year. We have a system whereby we have the previous captain, the incumbent captain, and then the prospective captain for next year. There's 3, and they're involved in a leadership group within the panel. So Conor just ticked the box by winning the championship.
Even at the home of the blue stuff, we dream of a white one. Happy Christmas from WLR.